Yes, so this is part 8 of chapter 2, and we have a subtopic in our hands which is towns and trades. So, the first category is of the new cities. We know that many urban centers had emerged by the 6th century BCE, and there are several reasons why these urban centers emerged. First of all, most of these centers acted as capitals of the Mahajanpads. We have read about the fact that at the time of 6th century BCE there were around 16 Mahajanpads, and each of these Mahajanpads had their own capitals. So most of the urban centers were probably capitals of these Mahajanpads. While apart from that, there were certain reasons why they emerged as the capitals. One of the reasons is that they were majorly on the important trade routes or routes of communication. So whenever there is a certain place on a route which is important for import and export, that particular region in itself gets importance. So for example, Patliputra, it was on a riverine route. You know, Patliputra was the capital of Magad, which is South Bihar, and it is around the tributaries of Ganga. So this was on a riverine route. Second is Ujjaini. Ujjaini was lay on a land route. Apart from that, Puhar, which is in the southern India, it is basically important for the Chola Empire. We have already read that, and since it had contact with the sea, so it lay in the sea route. So all these cities, they emerged because of the fact that they lay on important routes, which helped them to have import and export. Apart from that, Mathura, it emerged as a commercial center because of the activity that was going on there, the politics that because we know that Kushans had made Mathura as its second capital. So because of the political dominance and the political weightage that was given to this city, it emerged as an important urban center at that time. Next topic is the urban populations, the elites and the craftspersons. Now we know that all the kings and the ruling elites, they must have lived in fortified cities. So although it is difficult to conduct extensive excavations presently in these areas, the reason being that there are many people who are already living in these areas, so you cannot evacuate all of them and start excavating. So our information about these places have been limited because we cannot completely destroy and remove all the people from these areas just to excavate them. But whatever information we have received it from the various artifacts that we have found, the things that we have unearthed from these areas. So one of the important objects that we have found is the fine pottery. Now we know every phase has a certain unique pottery related to it. Like for Mauryan Empire, the pottery called NBPW, that is Northern Black Polished Ware, is extremely important. So every phase has a very unique pottery related to it. Like in Indus Valley, we read about the red and black pottery. So for the Mauryan Empire, it is the Northern Black Polished Ware, which is also in short called NBPW. Plus, it had a glossy finish to it. So probably it was used by the rich people because it must have had a lot of skill required to make these kind of pottery, and it must not have been affordable for the common masses to buy these pottery. So basically it must have been used by the urban population only. Now by the 2nd century BCE, we find short votive inscriptions. Votive inscriptions are nothing but the inscriptions which record the gifts that have been given to the religious institutions. So these inscriptions have been found in number of cities, which gives us the evidence that there was an ongoing practice of donations going on among the urban elites, who probably must have donated these things to the religious institutions to gain importance in the society. So these inscriptions gives us information about the name of the donor, the person who is gifting it, plus the occupation they used to follow, etc. Now next is the guilds or shrenis. We have also read about this in class 11th also. So guilds are basically organizations which used to represent a particular category of people, like a guild of traders or the guild of merchants. So these used to basically interact with the authorities to demand um, the various like if there is any requirement for a particular like if there is a requirement for the traders, the trade guilds will put those demands in front of the guilds. So that is the work of the guilds, and guilds at that time used to be extremely strong. Like today we have trade unions, etc. So these used to be very strong because the kings always used to favor these guilds, depending upon the fact that these trade guilds are going to support the king in the times of emergency. So this is why the trade guilds or the other guilds used to be holding a very important position in the society at that time, as well as in the polity. So next is the capital Patliputra. Now before Patliputra, the capital of Magad was Rajgriha, and Rajgriha in itself was a fortified natural city. But later on, Patliputra became the capital of Magad at the time of the Mauryan Empire, that is around 4th century BCE. But again it declined in its importance, and when Chinese pilgrim Huan Sang, who came during the time of Harshvardhan, when he came into India during 7th century CE, then he found this city in ruins. So Patliputra held an important place in the India's history, but later on it also declined with the passing of time. So we'll carry on with this in the next part. Thank you.